Green Bay is a small town, only 100,000 people. Those 100,000 people may be different in many ways, but there's one thing that brings them all together. The Green Bay Packers. In Titletown, the blue-collar city only knows hard work, tailgating, championships, but more importantly, they know family.
We have a saying in this town: faith, family, and the Green Bay Packers are all that you need. Sanjay and I grew up in Green Bay. You could say that we are Green Bay, or even better, the voices of Green Bay. We bring a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience.
Friendship, family, and football.
Ladies and gentlemen,
this is the Freezer Podcast. What is up? We are back. This is the Freezer Podcast, where we bring you a local feel of Packer fandom to a worldwide audience. I'm Sanjay, and alongside me, like always, is Matt. And no Fred today. He's got a Christmas concert for his kid to go to. So he's being a number one dad right now and probably hating life because it's a Christmas concert. So we are here. It's been a while. It feels good to be back behind the mic, Matt. And we were gone for the break, and also we were gone for the Bears game, kind of post game stuff. So we'll kind of real quick dabble into that. How's it going though today?
Hey, like you said, good to be back. Nice little hiatus last week. I think we had planned on going on, but just some miscommunication stuff and scheduling problems. So we're glad to be back. You know, we don't necessarily have a game this last week, but like you said, touch on the Bears, but man, lots of stuff to go over. NFC, NFL, you know, things are cooking, picking up, man. The playoffs are around the corner. Like, it's an exciting time in the league right now. So let's jump into it.
Absolutely. So yeah, the Bears game, we find a way to win that game down. I think it was as many as 13 points, correct?
Yeah. Yep. I'm pulling up the box right now, but yeah,
definitely we're definitely there for the flair of the dramatic. For wins and comeback wins. We've done it against Dallas, and now again against the Bears. So weird kind of season. It almost feels like this is just you just keep scratching your head because you're like, what do we want to do here? Do we want to win? Do we want to lose? What kind of team are we getting each week? Because we don't know. Defense is still pretty dog crap, but at the same time, the offense, it seems like, has found some sort of identity through Christian Watson, actually, and it's kind of started a spark here for this team, which I'm like, okay, where was this all year? I mean, obviously Christian Watson couldn't stay on the field, so that's probably why. But your thoughts just kind of end on that Bears game. Anything you kind of take away from that game and that win?
Yeah. So what I took away from it was the not giving up, not quitting, not going away, not dying. You know, playing with some pride and ultimately winning the game. Like that was my big takeaway there. Like, you know, the Packers could easily just roll over and you know, take their loss after loss after loss, have no real motivation, but they've hung around in some of these games in the last part of the season, or, you know, last few weeks. They haven't won them all, but, you know, they've been competitive. So I think that's my big takeaway there, was they're not going quietly into the night. They're at least coming out and trying to make a game of it. And as you noted, you know, the emergence of Christian Watson, I think, really kind of has invigorated the fan base a little bit. I mean, I know me, I was left for dead. I was ready to put a bow on it and go, let's move on to let's move on to the mock draft season. But he has me intrigued, and even if the games end up being meaningless ultimately, and we have a 10% chance of making the playoffs, I think we can all agree that what's exciting to watch now is the potential of this team going forward, and maybe getting a glimpse of the future. So I think that's kind of what I'm holding on to right now.
Absolutely, and I think you have to look at this is kind of, in all honesty, if I'm Brian Gutekunst, I'm at the edge of my seat and kind of really analyzing this roster and just kind of seeing what you're going to be doing moving forward. I mean, obviously the number one question is Aaron Rodgers. What's going to happen with his contract? What's going to happen with his, playing career? If he's going to stay, if he's going to go, I don't know what he's going to do. So I think that's obviously the biggest chip that has to fall, which it could be a detriment to the team once again, because you saw what happened the last time we took Aaron Rodgers first and we put his needs first. We lost our star receiver because he felt like he wasn't, considered the guy. He didn't feel the love, and he wanted to go home, obviously too. But it seems that we have to like put a lot of stuff on hold before we can find out what number 12 does. Which obviously he's earned that kind of clout, I guess. But at the same time, it does suck. But to look at the roster, I mean, look at this defense is kind of where I'm going with this tangent. Is this defense is got to get like some sort of like, I don't even know what it is. It's not energy. They always need energy, but
Toughness.
they need some sort of identity. And I think this is where Brian Gutekunst has to really like look deep at this side of the ball and say, look, I've been drafting how many MFers every single year on this defense, and yet here's this. Here's the product I see on the field. And then you have to also probably have Matt LaFleur in the conversation too. Where like, look, guy, you got to bring in someone either to manage this roster or get the scheme correct. Otherwise, you've failed twice now. You've gotten Mike Pettin and you've done now Joe Barry. Now obviously obviously LaFleur has been like coaches speak, trying to stand up for his guy every week during these failures. But it's like, I'm not trying to get into this, Badger talk right now with Jim Leonard, but obviously that's going to be the topic of choice because, once the offseason comes, obviously that was an interview that we had seen and we were, obviously hoping for that for some people, but, he decided to stay in Wisconsin. But you have to start looking at, a mirror and start figuring out what's the best situation. Is it more players? Is it a better coach? What is it going to be, Matt LaFleur and Brian Gutekunst? Because right now, you barely got out of Chicago, of all places, where you're supposed to own a team and where you're supposed to typically dominate. But really, I didn't feel until like the last like quarter and a half we were always just kind of like, oh man, do we have a chance of coming back, or are we just gonna lay soft and just give up like we usually do?
Well, yeah, and fortunately they figured out at the end they put the clamps on. But one thing that pissed me off about the defense was a little bit of the giving up the big plays in the beginning of that game. Like
Right.
Jair got dusted a few times by guys way less talent, and then he had the
running quarterback had a
and then he's
day.
calling them scrubs. It's like you can't get burned by a scrub and then call him a scrub. Like you just can't do that, man.
Granted,
So
he did make the play of the game, so I mean,
he did.
We'll give
He
him
did.
a little bit of credit, but yeah, you gotta put up at before you say something.
And believe me, I have no problem with having a cornerback who's
I am too, honestly. In the end, it's kind of like that's who he is. That's who he's always been. So
I don't want to have him to squash it, but I think it speaks to the bigger picture of the defense, which is they're not playing collectively as a unit. It's a lot of individual contributions, but they're not, one unit isn't flowing to the other. And granted, some of the injuries are playing into that. The loss of Rashawn Gary completely changed the effectiveness of the defense. I mean, they completely changed how they play. Getting to the passer, all that is impacted by him not being in the game, and they're trying to scrape together some kind of productivity between Enigbare. I think Preston Smith has been very quiet. I know maybe they're not asking him to do a ton. They've been blitzing more, it feels like. So I think they've been trying different things, but it hasn't necessarily paid off yet. So I think if we're looking at and keeping on theme here the next couple of weeks here is I want to see how the defense continues to respond. You're going to go against 3 division opponents, and then the Dolphins. The Dolphins game is the one that I'm most interested in because it just feels like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle and those guys are going to all go for 200 yards apiece. And then it's just going to be a really bad Christmas. So
yeah,
maybe
that's
not.
the ugly part.
I don't know. I think Joe Barry, I think he's coaching for his job. I think maybe it's his fate's already sealed. I was
going to say coach for his job. I think the job is already done and passed.
Well, but we think that, but I'm not so confident that the Packers are like, well, we're going to axe this guy the second the game's over against the Lions, week 18 or whatever it is. So I don't know. I'm fearful that they come out and they play well, and then they stick them, they keep them around. I believe they should move on and they should go a completely different direction there and find somebody else. I think LaFleur would be wise to do that, but I don't know, man. The Packers are a weird bunch, and sometimes they hand the coaches too long.
I'm going to defend Fred here because I was also in the same corner. I thought top 5 for sure based on the guys. I mean, it's not even, I don't think it's a laughable thing because you had all these guys returning. They all have more of a, experience beyond their back. Go ahead. What?
Well, we all drank that Kool-Aid.
Oh, right.
There's all of us. I
Yeah,
mean,
and you got Eric Stokes is coming off a really great year, and then you have Jair fully healthy. You have Rashawn Gary, who's probably his coming out party and probably, would have been, in the running for a defensive player of the year. And then you hope to see, obviously, you draft, Quay Walker to kind of pair him up with the all pro, middle linebacker. And then you also draft another defensive tackle, in Devontae Wyatt. So you're kind of thinking, man, we've really addressed everything here. And what's more left, or what's left to I guess stock up on this defense. And it didn't pan out. So I will say I was on that bandwagon as well. So I'm not going to completely laugh at Fred for that one, because honestly I think a lot of people were thinking that. So yeah, just kind of finalize the Bears game. I think it was nice to see too Zach Tom play really well. Now, granted, the Bears had nobody. They had no pass rush. They really have no one left.
But that's how he's been all year, though. He's just been lights out. Bears or not,
absolutely, yeah. And I think that's the thing where we have to see, like, okay, Zach Tom, where are you right now in this future of the Packers? Because again, we go back to the roster questions. David Bakhtiari, I think they can save a lot of money if they release him, or if they part ways. And I don't know. I don't think in trading, but definitely in cutting. But I think there is that conversation that has to be had. Not that I want to have that conversation, because he just got signed. He had the unfortunate injury, but he hasn't, really been, himself.
Well,
now, obviously, these last like 5 weeks, I feel like maybe we're getting close to that same David back. But I think my only issue is that the pass game, I feel like, still gets absolutely gashed. And like people are able to blitz us constantly. And I don't know if it's a Rodgers problem. I know he does tend to hold the ball a little bit longer, but I do feel like sometimes we're like, especially on, crucial downs, like third down. And I'm not saying this is Bakhtiari's fault only. I'm saying it's the whole line in general. But I feel like this offensive line has definitely taken a step back. I know True North was saying Campbell and Douglas was take a step back, but I also thought the offensive line has taken a big step back. And as a unit, I feel like they have not played to their potential, and they've gotten a little better. But granted, I think they've been going against, obviously, a little bit weaker, defensive lines. But your thoughts on, I guess, David Bakhtiari, Zach Tom?
Yeah, one, having Tom playing the way he's playing, one is it just makes you wonder why he didn't get into the games earlier in the year. The Packers have just this weird, bizarre philosophy about rookies, and got to fight your way up. It's like, if the guy's good and everything you've seen shows you he's going to play one way, put him in the game. So I'm glad he's playing that way, because he gives the Packers some flexibility and, frankly, some peace of mind that if things don't work out with Bakhtiari or Jenkins contractually, that they have somebody else that can step in and play really well. I think now that these guys are playing more together, there's some continuity on the offense line. I think that they're starting to find their stride a little bit more. I think there's still breakdowns and guys are still kind of figuring things out, but I feel like this last few games, or maybe month, like they're starting to kind of maybe turn the corner a bit. So it gives me some hope. And the Bakhtiari is a touchy one, because like, I think, I'm not sure what it looks like if you trade him or you cut him. I'm sure it's a huge dead cap number, and maybe it's not possible. Maybe it is. I don't know. But I kind of look at it as, if I had to have one more year of him, great, because when he does play, he's graded out really high, and they're playing exceptionally well with him in there. And when they're not, things are a little bit different. So I don't know, man. If they end up having to move on from him because it just clears up space, I guess, like, I can understand.
Well, I guess
I wouldn't be mad about it.
Joe, it's not a lot saved, but go on.
So you save so you save $5 million, got 23 dead. So it's like, to me, it's like, I would rather have the player.
Right, of course.
Obviously,
that's what I would be as well. But I thought it was a little bit more in savings, but I guess I was wrong. So
yes,
go on.
I'm all about keeping him, on the roster, and then you got to figure out a way to keep Jenkins in, and then maybe the year after this coming one, Bakhtiari is a little bit more. You're able to cut him then, or move on from him, because the dead money's less.
Yeah, and I think whatever decisions they make, we'll, in the offseason, we'll obviously know, and we'll talk about it. But I think we have to also like look at what this team is, moving forward. We got 3 games left. 3 games left, and you have Well, 4 games after this Rams.
4
I'm just
games.
like, yeah, I was like, geez, I'm like thinking about, I'm like, well, I have a game this Monday night. So 4 games. And we got to start asking the question, do we want to win or do we want to lose? Because we were talking about this, before the show started, and we had the Rams this week. You got Baker Mayfield coming in. He's been here before on Christmas. I was at that game. I think you were at the Browns game too, weren't you? Or no, did you not go to that game?
I was not at that one.
You're not at that game. So it was definitely a struggle. He almost came back and won, minus the heroics of Rasul Douglas getting the interception. But Baker comes back to the Bay Area here. And what do you like? What do you do as a Packer fan? Are you hoping for the wins and hoping to potentially get in? I know there's a lot of things I just kind of updated this last week on our playoff probabilities. I know our percentage chance kind of went up based on some of the guys I read on Twitter. You lost. The Buccaneers lost. You had the Giants lost and the Seahawks all lost. So those are all big teams that could potentially help us in our quest for the playoffs. But what are your thoughts here? Are you wanting to win?
I've gone back and forth on this subject many times, and it's changed. Excuse me, even recently. If it was a month ago, I would have said no, just lose them all and get the picks. But the more I've thought about it, the more I've kind of landed in this spot where although it's a veteran team, it's also a team that I think needs to find its footing. And even if it's at the end of a season where some of these guys can see some of these wins out and play tough and see the results, I think it may carry over into the offseason, give you a little extra something. If we were sitting at 3 wins right now, I would say, yeah, please lose them all. But I told you probably a month ago on the show, I said my biggest fear at that time was that the Packers figure some stuff out and win enough games to keep it interesting, but ultimately don't make the playoffs. And they're picking 17 or 18, some stupid pick right in the middle of the rounds where it's like, you're not, you're right outside of the good talent. So to me, that's where they're headed. That's where they're going. They're going to beat the Rams, right? The Rams stink. They're going to beat them. And then they're probably going to beat one of these other teams at least. So to get you to 7 wins, like you're going to be 7-10. Like, yeah, you're picking 18. So to answer your question, I think at this point now, I'd rather see him win, especially if Jordan Love gets a nod at some point. I definitely want to see him win those games then.
All right, well, let's just look at this real quick because we've got 49ers taking on Seahawks. So we're 49ers fans, right? If we want them to win, let's
gotta be Niners fans.
Game out, right? So you got Thursday night, you got the big divisional matchup between 49ers and Seahawks.
So go Niners.
Go Niners, right? They did lose Deebo Samuel, so we'll see what they can do. But this is in Seattle, 12th man, and all.
Okay.
We got Colts Vikings. We want the Vikings to keep winning.
Yeah.
So we have Steelers Panthers. So I think this is the weird one for me because do we want the Buccaneers to win or the Panthers to win? Because
I think we want the Panthers
so bad.
We want the Panthers to win that division because if we have a tiebreaker with the Bucs for a wild card spot, we have head-to-head win. Yeah,
that's right. I forgot about that. We played the Bucs. That was one of the weird 3 wins that we got.
Might as well have been last year. Yeah, I forgot about it.
I couldn't remember which wins we had. I forgot that we had 3 right away.
Yeah.
So we want we want the Panthers to probably win that game against the Steelers. So all right. We got Eagles, Bears, so we probably want Eagles to keep winning, even though the Bears have no quest. Lions, Jets, big game here. I think we want the Jets to win, right?
We want the Jets to win because the Lions are in our way. They're ahead of us. Yeah,
right. So we'll see if Mike White plays with those rib injuries. We'll see. Because if it's Zach Wilson, pray because he's not going to.
Yeah, good luck.
Cardinals, I think we know that they're out, right? And obviously, no Kyler Murray now after that big injury. So Bengals, so we're definitely Bengals fans because they play the Bucs.
Yes, Bengals fans. Yep.
All right, and now this is the tough one. This is the Sunday nighter, Giants Commanders. We've lost to both these teams, but the Commanders have a tie. So I don't really know how that all works. Now, granted, it don't matter because they all have a tiebreaker over us.
Well, because the Commanders could finish 8-1, right?
Right.
Instead of 9-7-0.
Oh, so no matter what, based on numbers, that's not a good record comparably, right? So,
right. So if they finish 8-1, then we go
so
and we have to win on no matter what.
Lose.
I think so. I think so.
They both tied each other. That's the problem.
That's a pick 'em. That doesn't matter.
Yeah,
That doesn't necessarily matter.
I just realized I'm like, wait a minute, they're both 7-5-1. That's
But who has the shittier schedule after that game? Because that's the team you probably want to lose and to keep losing. And the Giants are 1-4. I won 4-1 in the last like 5 or 6.
I was going to move the next week. So we got the Rams.
God, we were up on them. All we had to do was just finish the game.
Yeah, well,
that's why this season we're going to look back. It's going to really piss you off when you look at that 3-game skid after London. Just ruined the whole thing.
Okay, so I'll do this real quick. We got Lions Panthers the following week. 12 Lions go into Carolina.
I get root for Carolina.
Are we Carolina Panthers, right? Yeah. So we're still Panthers fans. Okay. So
I think we're Panthers fans the rest of the year.
Seahawks Chiefs. I think we know Chiefs should get
go Chiefs.
The only thing I'm concerned with is if they start figuring out that they have the entire AFC locked up, but I don't think they do yet, right? Because the Bills. Where are the Bills at right now? They're at 10-3 too. So never mind. They got to win.
Yeah, they got to keep playing. Yep.
Giants, Vikings. So we definitely want Vikings, right? We're Vikings fans.
Unfortunately, yep.
Us to say that. Okay. Commanders, 49ers. So we are 49ers fans. That's kind of working out nicely. Cowboys, Eagles doesn't matter to us. Nope. Then we have Tampa Bay and Cardinals. Well, I think Tampa Bay probably will win that game. But yeah, we have the tiebreaker.
Hey, Colt McCoy. Is he Colt McCoy still the QB there?
Yeah, he's still he was the QB.
Serviceable. He might get it done. You never know. Brock Purdy just outdueled Tom Brady, so you never know.
Right. Well, yeah, that Tampa defense is something to question. So that was next week. All right. Final week, week 7. Yeah, right? No.
We have 17 and 18.
We have 18 weeks. That's right. So the next week, we got Bears Lions. I don't know what that game.
Bears.
Justin Fields
Lions
almost won that game. I was in the airport for that game, coming back from Vegas, and that Bears game I thought was already done, and then Lions came back and won that game.
It is crazy.
I don't know. Colts Giants. I don't know. I don't think the Colts can win.
You see the Giants to lose, the Commanders to lose, the Lions to lose. Those all need to lose.
Well, then yeah, Browns versus Commanders, that could definitely happen, and Jets versus Seahawks.
Seattle's the other one. Because the Niners are leading the division now, so the Seahawks got to keep losing. Yeah.
All right. So yeah, there's a lot of things that need to shake out. I do think that we have the window, I guess you could say.
The Packers have to win. It's just assuming they win every other game. They can't lose anymore. It's not insane when you look at what they have to have happen. Granted, it's a lot of things, a lot of dominoes have to fall, but the teams they need to lose, their schedules as they exit the season are not easy. Like they're playing bona fide either playoff teams or teams that are in the hunt they have to play, or division opponents, which are toss the records out when that happens. So to me, if the Packers can come out and beat the Rams, which I do expect them to do, and if they somehow find a way to beat the Dolphins on Christmas Day, I will personally reignite the hype flame for the playoffs myself if that happens. But if it doesn't, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter at all.
You can't do this. You can't.
What do you mean I can't do that
anymore? Because you gave me shit for picking us to lose for all these years that I've done this show, and then you've written them off a while ago, and then you're going to say you're going to ignite the flame for the one guy that's always the whole
reignite the flame.
Yeah, that's
because I did extinguish it. I did extinguish it.
I mean, when the flame is out, what does that fucking mean? What does that mean? You're reigniting. You put it out. You somehow blew it out. So.
But I didn't ruin it. I left some wick left to relight it.
You're so stupid. No, that doesn't work. No, that doesn't. All right, so let's move on to the next conversation, because clearly True North is definitely on the bandwagon of the young guys and playing with love and just lose out. So, the Packers, what?
I'll say, which isn't, if they did that, I'd be all about it too.
Right. But okay.
So
this is a question we need to ask, because obviously in news, kind of coming up out of the woodworks here, there was a weird conversation between Wildy and Jordan Love. I don't know what it was, but it was giving kind of the indication that potentially, now we didn't get an actual quote, so obviously this is not, we don't know the full intent of Jordan Love's decisions, but it makes sense if you connect the dots in a lot of ways. You don't know the uncertainty with Rodgers. You really don't know with your option being picked up or not. This is your final year of your contract. You want to go start. That's very, that's reasonable, a reasonable argument for you. You feel like you've gotten the the schooling and teaching from Rodgers and LaFleur and Getsy and Clements to make yourself a starter in this league, you ought to, try to get yourself a job that way, right? So I guess it makes sense, but he has potentially said that he would maybe ask for a trade, at least gave the indication that he would probably want to trade if they do not make him the starter. So that brings up the question, Matt, do you make Jordan Love the starter? I mean, or do you trade Jordan Love, or do you just keep both quarterbacks? He can't go anywhere anyway because he's under contract unless you pick up his 5th-year option, obviously. What is your choice here?
Well, if I'm the Packers, I look at him and go, that's cute, but you have no leverage. You have nothing
Right.
to stand on. You're not going anywhere. You're playing here at least 2 more years. Now, the comments Love made, like, I don't blame him. Like, he probably is confident in himself and he's like, I want to go. He sees all these rookies get drafted to other teams and come in and play and have success. Look at Joe Burrow. He's in a Super Bowl in year 2. So I think he probably feels like, why the hell don't I get a shot at this, or at least open it up a bit. And also, I was listening to something the other day, some other else's podcast, and they were talking, Mark Schlereth. Oh, it's Peter Bukowski's podcast. He had God, what's his name? Trey Wingo on, who I guess is good friends with Mark Schlereth. And Schlereth did the game where the Packer game a couple weeks ago, and Rodgers had made some comment about, I want to play next year. I just don't know where it'll be. So I think Rodgers now has made 2 comments about, like, not necessarily feeling too confident that it's going to be in Green Bay, whereas Brian Gutekunst said, well, yeah, we want him here. So that's going to be very interesting to watch, because I still think if they want to move him and someone wants to trade for him and get the picks for him.
Oh, wait, you're talking about Love, right?
Rodgers, I don't think anybody's going to do it.
Contract. Well, no one in their right mind is taking a 41-year-old, soon to be 41-year-old.
I agree, but it's also, I think teams are nuts, man. When it comes to QB play, I don't think anything's off the table. Like, I know the Jets have been brought up a lot, like a team who's in maybe has a small window because the defense is good. You got young offensive players. You just need someone with a brain at QB there to do it. I don't know, but the most interesting thing I think in the entire NFL in this offseason has to be the Jordan Love, Aaron Rodgers storyline again. And we're all going to be along for the ride. So I hope people are ready for it, because it could get bumpy pretty quick.
The problem is like, everybody needs to know Rodgers is still under contract. So like that is the thing that everybody forget. Well, nobody forgets that. But like, at the same time, you have to know, if you're Jordan Love, that you're under contract too. And so if you do pose this, like, if the reward for Jordan Love is just going to get, I don't think he's going to go for much, because I don't think teams are going to offer a lot. I think if anything, it might be.
If someone offered you a third round pick, would you take it for him?
No, I would.
Like, you're not going to get a first for him. No one's going to give you a first.
And I don't even think I would do it for a 2nd-round pick. I would start to at least not hang up the phone immediately on 2 2nd-round picks. But I would not entertain it. I'm just saying, I would at least have him tell me over the phone, I will offer you 2 2nd-round picks, and then I would hang up on him. But then, I go ahead.
I think the Packers would be stupid to trade Jordan Love and his potential, whatever it might be, just to keep Aaron Rodgers for maybe another year or 2. They would regret that forever, especially if he went on to be somebody somewhere else. They would never live that down. So I truly believe the front office's intention, or their preference, would be for Rodgers to retire or somehow figure out a way to move on from him. We'll look back on last offseason as kind of the pivotal point of them going, it was probably the best chance, the most realistic chance to trade him, but they obviously recommitted to him. So I don't know, man. Like, they put themselves in a very, very precarious spot, because it's like, you're going to piss off Jordan Love and you're trying to appease Aaron Rodgers at the same time. I don't know how you can do it, man. I don't think you're going to be able to do it much longer.
If I'm having a conversation with him, I'm saying, look, Rodgers is under contract 1 more year. Play out the preseason. We'll pick up your 5th-year option. I mean, they're not telling him that, but I'm just saying, you're under this. You can tell him, look, wait 1 more year, and the ship is yours, because clearly they can get out of the Rodgers contract after next year. So you tell him this is your car in 2 years. Is that enough to keep him around, or is he just thinking, look, I'm going to get antsy in my pantsy and try to leave,
Well,
knowing that like you got AJ Dillon, you got Dobbs, you got Samari
Watson,
Toure,
exactly.
Watson. You have something there. You have a offensive line that could be nice. Like you have a lot of pieces,
They
and I
got
don't know.
young.
Maybe they keep Aaron Jones. I don't know, but
That's my point. Is the Packers' upcoming offense has a lot of young guys and a lot of talent on it that can be around here for a while. Jordan Love is best served staying here. Now, I wouldn't blame him if he wanted to get out and go somewhere else. But remember, he's been in this system marinating for basically 3.5. It will be 4 years at the end of this. It's like he knows the system inside and out. He probably knows it just as well as Aaron Rodgers or anybody else in the team at this point. It's like it's in his own interest to stay here because it's going to be the most, the easiest way to apply what he knows and his talent. So, but the question is going to be, when are the Packers going to let him do it, and how long are they going to allow essentially Aaron Rodgers to stick around? So that's why this is so interesting. And it's like you want to see Love play. But is Rodgers going to be back? It just there's so much in the air that it's tough to kind of make a prediction one way or the other, or tell the Packers what they should be doing.
Yeah, I agree, and I hope whatever they decide.
What a weird spot we're in.
It's honestly been
Drama.
so weird since 2018. Honestly,
yeah,
it has been the weirdest 4 years or whatever 5 years now of 4 years that the Green Bay Packers have probably faced in a long time since maybe last time Favre was here, honestly. So I think it's a tough conversation to have, with your friends, because you're like it's probably split, right? You got a lot of the Rodgers fans that are like, I die, at this, with my loyalty to Rodgers, and then you got some of the people like, look, I'm ready, man. This team is not going to compete for playoffs or complete for a Super Bowl. Sorry. Let's move on. Let's go to Love.
And I think a lot of us are not even just, if you don't even look at this year, like, yeah, we're probably not going to make the playoffs. For me, it's like, I'm just ready for Jordan Love. I'm ready for the Packers' next phase, next chapter with somebody that's not Rodgers. I love Aaron Rodgers.
You're going to tell 50 million people live on TV that you're ready for Love.
I'll enjoy Aaron Rodgers as long as he's around.
No, you can't play.
I love him
now. No.
Well, why not?
You just said I want Jordan Love.
I said I'm ready for him. I said if they move to him, like I'm not like one of these people like, I love Aaron Rodgers, and as long as he's here and he's able and wants to play, he can play as long as he'd like to. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that maybe next year he does play, but if the Packers I think we're just ready to move on. You may have 2 or 3 more years in the tank, but it's going to have to be somewhere else. Like, I'm not mad about it. Like, I'm fine with it. Whereas when the whole Favre thing went down, I was one of those ones. If Twitter had existed, I'm glad it did, because I would have been on there howling at the moon every night about how Brett Favre deserves to play because this is his town and this and that.
Yeah, I would have hated you. I would have.
Yeah, you would have. So but here's the thing: having lived through that, it's given me a different perspective this time around, and a completely different mentality about this whole situation. So I'm not going to be that guy like it was last time.
These two quarterbacks, Favre and Rodgers, have definitely. Now, granted, both of them have. It's weird how they both kind of like end their careers with a lot of drama around them. It's just like, what the hell, man? Like, you got someone showing dick pics. You got this guy, taking ayahuasca, and then doing like,
a weird journey we've been on.
Anyway, but I'm always going to fight for Aaron Rodgers. I don't think he needs to stay 10 years, but for next year, I want Aaron Rodgers. I'm sorry. I want him to play. I think Jordan Love still needs
Eli and Sanjay.
What?
He said, Eli, I'd like to speak with you because he's just Mr. Aaron Rodgers. I said, Sanjay's gonna be the same way now. He's just gonna be fighting for him.
No. Though I say just for next year. I'm not ready to let Jordan Love, just kind of. I guess. Okay, hang on. Maybe I might backpedal.
Oh,
I know.
Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah. What is this roster going to look like come April before the draft?
Well,
if we lost Aaron Jones, we lost Adrian Amos, we lose Bakhtiari, we have, maybe I don't even know what else we have left that's on its way out.
There's going to be guys that are going to go. they're going to move on from like Adrian Amos or,
Right.
you know, a couple of these guys.
Then I'd probably say let's just move on from Rodgers.
I don't think
if you're
that
if you're gonna keep riding with this unit and saying, look, we're gonna go for one more at it, I think you keep reloading. You get one of those, there's like 10 awesome tight ends coming out. You go get a tight end. You you help maybe what's his name? Kenny Clark on the defensive line. Go get one more defensive player. Like, I think this draft, you're bulking up for whatever you need for one more run. That's how I would feel about it. If you still kept everybody intact.
I agree. I think that I do vehemently believe that even if Aaron Rodgers returns next year, they're still, I believe, a playoff team and will be a contender in the NFC, because I don't think there's one just overtly dominant team. And if they stick with him, I'm fine with it. Like, I'm not like, oh, get him out of town. But just if they're like, hey, I think we're ready to move on to Jordan Love, I'm going to say that's fine. I'm okay with it.
The people have spoken, Matt. The people have spoken. I am right. That's all that I needed. We can end the show now. Thanks for everybody for joining us tonight on the show. We really appreciate it. Anytime someone says Sanjay's right and Fred's not here, beautiful. Then, Fred's watching right now.
I think it only happens when Fred's not here, unfortunately.
Don't let Fred hear that. Okay, so fine. We'll leave the Jordan Love chapter for next week, because if we lose this game, then it's Jordan Love the rest of the way.
It's going to reignite it. Yeah.
Stop saying reignite, because you can't use that anymore.
Light the flame, brother.
All right, so we'll leave it at that for next week, and we'll see what the outcome is come Monday night. Let's move on. Let's get into this Rams game, because that's Monday night. We got Baker Mayfield coming back into town. We saw him last time in the Christmas game, and he, like I said earlier in the show, almost came back and won, but Rasul Douglas said, no, thank you. I'm going to take this ball from you. But then now you got this new reignited.
Oh, how about that? Word of the night. Reignite.
Baker from a comeback win against whoever they just played. I forgot. Now who did the Rams just play? Was it the Raiders? Yeah, it was the Raiders.
Yeah, the Raiders.
So they come back and beat Derek Carr at home in LA. Guys play 2 practices and he goes and wins a game. So now he's got a whole full week behind, the offense and getting the plays down, and gets his feet a little bit more wet in the system. So what are your kind of thoughts? It's going to be a cold game. First off, I've heard the high of 18 all day, and then into the night, it's going to be even more cold. So I don't know.
Get your Carhartts out.
Yeah, exactly. So it's definitely going to be the winter game to start the winter season here. So your thoughts on the Rams, Mr. Matt?
Well, the Rams themselves, I mean, that was a nice win that they got over the Raiders, and how they did it was pretty spectacular. Crazy story for Baker Mayfield to come in on basically 48 hours notice and start a professional football game in front of a national audience. Right. Is pretty impressive, and lead a almost 100-yard drive to cap it off. So pretty cool. But I'm going to go ahead and say that it's not going to be 75 and sunny. It's going to be cold as shit, and that 3-8. 9 or whatever 4-8 record that they have is going to be dragging them down when they come in here. 2 teams really that are have underperformed this year. I'm not quite sure what the Rams are playing for. I have to imagine it's demoralizing that their first round pick, which would have been a top 5 pick as of right now, is going to go to the Lions. And man, the Lions look smart as hell right now with Goff and how he's playing. But I expect. I know the Packers have had the Rams number lately, man. They've outplayed them, they've outcoached them, they've out-schemed them. I know they don't have Devontae Adams right now, but they've really played excellent against the Rams the last 2 or 3 times they've played. So I'm really intrigued to see kind of the wide receivers. Now you have Dobbs and Watson in. This is the first time. I don't know the first time, but maybe the first time we'll have extended look at the 2 of them on the field.
Yeah, outside of game 1. Right.
Yeah, so. It hasn't happened. And, you got one of the premier cornerbacks in the game and Jalen Ramsey on the other side. So you want to see how those 2 are going to move against him. Is Aaron Donald still playing? I haven't heard anything out of him. I
heard he was out like the last week or 2, and I think he's gearing up to come back this week.
Okay. Because they kind of had
Sure,
a mini
why not?
bye after playing. Yeah. So that's another one is if Aaron Donald plays or doesn't play, obviously it makes a huge difference on how the defense is going to play the Packers offense. So I guess what I'm looking for here is a continuation of that Bears game, is a strong second half. I mean, if we're looking at this as a potential launching board, maybe to some kind of magical run, you do want to see some consistency. You want to see maybe that they've got their bye week, they figured a few things out. Maybe their DBs aren't playing a mile off the opposing team's wide receivers anymore. I'm not too worried about the Rams' run game, albeit the Packers' run defense is so bad that you probably do have to worry about any opposing running back because you just never know how it's going to go over. But I'm most excited to watch the Packers receivers against the Rams defensive backs. That's kind of what I'm most excited about.
Yeah, I'm excited to see, like, basically this is the last week, right? Like, this will probably be the last week that we figure out if we are still playoff contenders or if we're, dead in the water and it's time for Jordan Love, right? So I think the effort and passion and love for the game, I'm hoping that is at an all-time high this week. Like, give it everything you have. You have nothing to lose. This is the first time, like, in a while that the Green Bay Packers can go into games with nothing to lose, whereas in other years we're like, shit, we have everything to lose.
Yeah.
And it's a whole different story now, Like, I think that Lions game, when we lost to them, they were still playing with nothing to lose. The Packers were like, we have everything to lose because we feel like our season's still on the line. And, if we lose this game, that's, 5 straight or whatever it was, like, there was a little desperation, but I felt like there was more to lose for the Packers than there was for the Lions.
I thought so too.
Now we're in this situation this week where I feel like, look, yeah, you beat the Bears because you're supposed to, right? That's how the rivalry works. You beat them, you own them, you shut them up, and now you come back to reality, right? So I feel like that, and I say that comment now that kind of leads to, potentially me picking against us to win. But, I think this team, that's what I want to see. I want to obviously see how these young receivers really play with Rodgers. If Toure is getting a little bit more, looks as a 4 or 5
get him in the
receiver,
game. Yeah.
let's see these guys out there. I really do want to see this offense. I mean, obviously Aaron Jones is coming back, healthier, because I know he left, the game in Chicago banged up. So hopefully he's got enough rest to kind of get himself kind of geared and charged up for a little run here. But I just want to see heart out there. Go ahead.
I was going to follow up on that point. I think that's a really good call out, is like, you're coming out of a bye week. It's a lot to ask to make the playoffs. So how does the team respond? Have the coaches been able to get them to buy in to continuing to come out and win games as if you're front running or
play for each other, play for
each other, for passion,
play for the brotherhood,
I don't think there's any NFL player that mails anything in. Maybe it gets late in the game and they start to, cut the runs off a little bit sooner. But these guys work their asses off, and I don't think any single one of them ever go into any game, regardless of record, trying to lose it or play half-assed. So I don't think that's going to be possible. But I don't know. I just feel like that if this could be a good sign, a telling point of like how much of a command the coaching staff maybe still has or influence they come out flat out of a bye week and they look like shit. I think that tells you something. And if it's the opposite and they look really good and they look like they have some motivation to play with passion, I think it tells you another thing. So I'm really a good point to bring up, because I'm going to be watching for that.
Awesome. Well, Matt, we'll kind of end things a little earlier tonight. Why don't we get to our predictions and then we can close out the show for the fans that have been here.
Okay, so I'm definitely picking the Packers. I think I've had this circled as a win, even early in the year. I know I just feel like they got the Rams number, and right now the Rams, I know they beat the Raiders, but the Raiders are the Raiders, and I don't know. I don't have a lot of confidence that Baker Mayfield can come back and duplicate what they did last week. I don't think there's going to be any 98-yard drives at the end of the game. But you at the same breath, you can never say never when it comes to the Packers. But I think, as we said early in the show, I think they are figuring out something on offense. I think that the whole Christian Watson emergence has opened up things a little bit here, and they're finding some stability and they're finding things that work for them. So I do think that the offense, I'm not gonna say they're gonna be fireworks, but I think I expect some productivity out of them, even with Jalen Ramsey and possibly Aaron Donald out there on the other end. And then on the other side of the ball, no Cooper Cup, no big time weapons for the Rams. They're banged up across the board there. I don't, Baker Mayfield again. I don't know what he's going to be capable of. Some of that just coming off last week is probably pure adrenaline. So now you get another week to go into it. Maybe some of his old tendencies kind of fall back in and you see the same old guy. So I do expect the Packers to win this game. It's going to be cold out, so I don't think it's going to be necessarily a high scoring game, but I'm going to go ahead with the score of, give me 27-13 Packers.
Oh, interesting. I like it. I think this is going to be I feel like we're going to say this every year or every week now moving forward, but this is it. This is the final, dance kind of game, because this could either shape Rodgers' maybe last game as a Green Bay Packer, or it could ignite this team into yet another Aaron Rodgers run the table kind of, ending. Maybe they gets in the playoffs. Maybe we don't. We need a lot of help, but maybe, ignite something in him where he's got this passion. He's like, look, I want to come back and I want to, run this back because I know with this, with these young receivers, something could be great. This could be it. Otherwise, this could be the time where we're like, wait, we lose this game. It's the Jordan Love show. And that's the path we're going to go, and we're going to roll with it regardless of, Rodgers saying he wants to come back. Maybe we don't want to trade him. We don't want to lose Jordan Love because we put all this time into him, and we're like, look, screw it. We'll rip the Band-Aid. We'll take the bite, or we'll take the money hit, and we're just going to go with Jordan Love. You don't know what's going to happen, but this could be the game that, says that, like, that's going to be the path we go. Maybe we'll see, because if you lose this week, next week, it's definitely going to be the Jordan Love show. You have no real reason to play Aaron Rodgers the rest of the way. Let him just rest up. I know he'll probably want to play the last game if it is kind of his, last game, in Lambeau kind of thing. I don't know. I mean, that's kind of, we'll see what happens there. But, you let Jordan Love get at least 7 games of play because he's played the games in preseason. He's played in the Eagles game, and now you let him play the final 3 games. Go ahead.
Question for you. Do you put any stock in when Goody and these guys say, well, we've seen everything we need to see? I don't know how you can make that statement about a player without really getting an extended look. I'm not in the league and I'm not an NFL personnel guy. I don't know shit about anything other than just watching the league my whole life. You can't convince me that a guy who has limited time in regular season action, you've seen enough. There's no way, because there's too big of a difference between the game and practice. What do you think about that? Do you think that they've seen everything they need to see? I don't know how you can make that statement.
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
And oddly, I want to say, based on throws and the fact that if he's playing the system that Matt LaFleur has implemented in Green Bay, and if he's running it exactly the way that he is envisioned, and Matt LaFleur is like, look, this guy literally listens to everything I say in his ear in the radio, and he does exactly what I say. I mean, outside of just saying, hey, pass him the ball, go through your progressions, look for all your exit strategy routes, look for the main route that we want on this play, whatever it is. I think they have seen that. I think they saw it in that Eagles game, in that comeback, and this guy was a touchdown away from one of the craziest comebacks that we've ever seen, probably in Packer history, at least in the last 5 years or so. Whatever you want to call it, this kid came out and did everything I think they thought they could get out of him in this system. And I think that's maybe where he went with this whole, we've seen what we wanted to see. I think there was a lot of progression, in the preseason. I think there was, a lot of great throws out there. I think there was some, hesitation stuff too, but I think you've learned from arguably the greatest quarterback to throw the ball ever. And whatever he's done to help you succeed in this league for the last 3 years, or, whatever it's been, you've taken that. And I think Brian Gutekunst is good with that. And I think you're only going to know by fire, right? If you trial by fire. So if you're going to commit to this guy, let him see the losses, let him take the interceptions, let him take fumbles. But I think you've seen everything potentially in the ceiling that you've wanted from him. The accuracy, the placement, the scramble ability, the the ability to read a defense and the ability to run the offense. And I think that's what they see in this kid. And I think maybe that's why he said that. I'm not entirely agreeing with it either, though, because I feel like I, as the fan, need to see more. But I feel like maybe those scouts and those
they
GMs
see him every day. Right.
So I don't know, because you're right. Practices they see that shit all the time in practice, right? So they probably have a way more bird's eye view of things than we do. So yeah, I guess to answer your question, there we go. So all right, to pick this game now. I have us winning this game because I too believe in this, run. I will, fight for Rodgers here and say, look, if you've got enough in you, you're healthy now. You're healthier. No thumb issue, hopefully. But the ribs I know are still, probably going to give him a little issue. But we'll see how he handles the cold, because that's
the great equalizer. Everything hurts more.
So we'll see how he really looks, but obviously a healthy hand, maybe those throws are a little bit more accurate come, Monday night. We'll see. But there's nobody I would rather have in a Monday night in Lambeau in the cold against, an opponent like the Rams, and other than Aaron Rodgers. So I'm going to take us to win this game. And I think with the Romeo Doubs show and Christian Watson back in the fold, and Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon, like this is it. Whether it's going to be with Rodgers or Love, this is going to be the future. And obviously, Aaron Jones is kind of a question mark, but this could be your offense. And I want to see what this looks like. So I'm going to say 35-14. I'm going to go 30 burger here. And I'm going to say that Aaron Rodgers has figured out how to run a little bit more of this offense. He understands that he can take shots with Christian Watson. Defenses now have to factor in this speed of him. And then also now you got Romeo Doubs, who can run great routes, and he can pose as a threat inside. You still have Lazard. You still have the old, reliable Randall Cobb. And now you add that with the running backs. I think that's really tough to stop, honestly. And I don't know what kind of state the Rams are in. I know they just got this huge boost and win against, the stupid Raiders, but they're going to try to, win this game too. Obviously they have a lot to fight for. They're an NFL team. They want to, earn their contracts and stuff. So it will definitely be a lot better of a game than we thought it was going to be maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago. So I think this will definitely be a fun game to watch, and obviously be there when I'm going to be there. So anything else you want to get off your chest there, Matt, before we leave these fine folks?
Nope. No, I'm good. So, I'm looking forward to see how this game goes, and we'll get the three of us hopefully back here next week to break the game down. We'll either be celebrating and overreacting one way or the other. I'm sure we'll do that. So I look forward to it.
Awesome. Hey, thank you guys so much for joining us every week. I know we haven't been here last week and a couple other weeks because, we've had a lot of scheduling issues, and just, we have busy lives too. And as much as we love being here for you guys, we have to obviously be here for our families as well. So they take precedence over any show. So we will be back. I won't be back next week because I'm going to be working, but Matt and Fred will definitely be back. Hopefully they'll be talking about a win. If they're not, they're going to be talking about Jordan Love the rest of the way, hopefully. But with that being said, I'm Sanjay. That's Matt. And like always, go
Pack.
Go.
Go.